The Rainbabies by Laura Krauss Melmed, illustrated by Jim LaMarche. In a small house in a green meadow lived an old woman and her husband of many years. Food they had aplenty, and a good roof over their heads, and the river ran close to their door. But the thing they wanted most was the thing they lacked, a child to call their own. The days of good honest work left little time for pining, but when twilight fell, the old woman would sit down at her table and sigh. If children grew in flower pots or blew down the chimney with the March wind, what a lucky woman I would be. One spring night, the couple was tucked in bed, snoring softly, when a broad ribbon of white light slid across the old woman's pillow. Her eyes flew open as she sat bolt upright. Though she could hear the steady tattoo of rainfall on the rooftop, her gaze met the white face of the full moon, peering round-mouthed through her window pane. The old woman shook her husband. "Wake up, old man. I've heard the moon shower brings good fortune to everyone it touches." The old man rose, grumbling, and followed his wife outside. Though the shower had all but ended, the last drops of warm rain touched them. The old wife smiled and squeezed his hand. Then her eye caught a silvery glint in the meadow grass. Bending down to get a better look, the woman gasped at what the moon revealed. Nestled among the wet blades of grass and the wildflowers were a dozen shimmering drops of water, each holding a tiny baby, no larger than her big toe. With utmost care, the couple gathered up the wee babies and brought them into the house. The woman dried them gently and set them on a soft cloth atop the kitchen table. 12 perfect little ones, all in a row. The old couple smiled and cooed at the babies until they began to yawn and rub their eyes with tiny fists. Then the woman wrapped the Rainbabies snugly in scraps of flannel and laid them to sleep in the dresser drawer. She and her husband, marveling at what had befallen them, returned to bed. Day after day. Day after day, the old couple cared for the Rainbabies and soon grew accustomed to their ways. The infants seemed happiest after dusk and when the sky was overcast. When they were tired or wanting to be held, they cried out in tinkling voices and reached up with their plump little arms. The old man and woman soothed the Rainbabies in the palms of their hands or rocked them to sleep in a pair of wooden shoes lined with handkerchiefs. The old woman would sing, "By and by, by and by, the moon is half a lemon pie. The mice who stole the other half has scattered star crumbs in the sky. By and by, by and by, my darling babies, don't you cry. The moon is still above the hill. The soft clouds gather in the sky. On warm, hazy days, the old man and woman would carry the babies in a willow basket as they went about their chores. One cloudy morning, the family set out with fishing poles in their wooden boat to catch some supper. The woman placed the basket at her feet. The rain babies were soon lulled to sleep by the gentle roll of the river. The old man and woman baited their hooks and dropped their fishing lines into the water. No sooner had their hooks been swallowed by the river than the boat began to pitch. Seized by a powerful current, the boat was drawn into a foaming whirlpool. A mighty wave rose up over the side of the boat, and before the old man and old woman could stop it, the basket of babies was swept overboard. The old man plunged into the river. Round and round he swam, trying to reach the basket. He swam until his heart pounded like a hammer. His limbs burned as if they were on fire, although the water was cold. Then a faint sound reached him over the roar of the current. He turned to see the old woman gesturing wildly with a fishing pole. With a heave, she flung the pole, and the old man grabbed it. Reaching out with it, he hooked the basket's handle. Then he drew the basket to him and lifted it up from the water. Instantly, the river regained its calm. The old man swam back to his wife, handed the basket up to her, and climbed into the boat. Relieved, but wet and exhausted, the couple embraced and rowed home, forgetting about their fish. Some days later, the wind began to whip about the meadow. The peaches have ripened and should be picked, wife. Let us gather them now, before the wind does our work for us, said the old man. So the old woman carried the basket of babies to the orchard and laid it in a small clearing. The old man climbed a ladder that was leaning against one of the gnarled trunks. He picked a peach and handed it carefully down to his wife. Suddenly, the sky deepened to an iron gray, bathing the orchard in a bluish glow. A crash of thunder sounded as a bolt of lightning struck the ground close to the basket where the rain babies were sleeping. Flames quickly enclosed the clearing in a perfect ring of fire. The willow basket lay trapped inside, the rain babies wailing. The woman tore the apron from her waist and started beating the flames. But as quickly as she subdued them, they rose again. Seeing this, the old man leaped across the barrier of the fire and seized the basket. Then he returned to the blaze. He returned through the blaze. As he handed the basket to his wife, a sudden rush of cool rain extinguished the circle of fire. The rain babies were unharmed. The next day dawned blue as chicory. The husband